Good news! A new moon without a bunch of crazy aspects. I can't wait to tell you about it. Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the new moon on March 13th and what it has in store for each sign. So we're going to start off with some general information, and then I'll go sign by sign and do some predictions. And you'll be able to see the different chapters in the description box, and then YouTube will do its magic and break everything into chapters. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. Please hit the subscribe button and hit the like button if you like videos like this. So this is the Pisces new moon in March, and what we're seeing is this energy of healing and optimism, because a lot of the difficult aspects that we've been doing, including the Saturn square Uranus, those energies are dissipating now. And so it's almost like we have a little breather, a little time for some healing, a little time to look forward and to feel more optimistic, to set plans and make plans, but not necessarily to get those plans in motion yet, because this is some older energy, and so this is the time before the beginning. This is the time where you meditate or think about plans or think about the bigger picture of what you want, so that the universe can start to bring those opportunities to you. Now, one of the things that does happen when we do this Pisces energy is that you can feel that you're drawing a lot of critical people towards yourself, especially if you're naturally optimistic, if you have strong ideals or even strong ideas. You can bring people into your life who are playing that opposite energy and maybe putting down your ideas or attacking you in some way. And this is because that Pisces energy tends to not have the boundaries that we see with some of the other moons. Because you're wanting to be part of the collective consciousness and the source of all creativity, and that's what that Pisces energy allows you to do. It also opens you up to negative thoughts or negative people. And so you just want to be aware of that, because this is something like a door that you can open or close. This is an opportunity for you to recognize something and put a boundary in that place. So you don't have to have boundaries on everything. You just need a boundary between you and that person who may be critical of what you're doing. I think when we're doing Pisces, it's even more important than usual to be aware of what is in our control and what is outside of our control. And so if someone is telling you that you need to be worried about something that's happening on the other side of the world, or that they think might happen in the next year or 2 or 100 years, it is not necessarily in your control to do anything about this. And so the energy is to reground yourself by saying, well, what is in my control? What can I do today to move myself further towards my goals, versus having your whole life stop because you're concerned about something that may or may not happen in the future. So while Pisces does talk about this bigger picture and this energy of being connected to all people, part of being connected to all people is to realize that those people are on their path and you're on your path. And so we can all move forward together. And some of how that happens is by example. In fact, that's one of the best ways to do it, is if you are an example of a person reaching their goals of living your ideals, then you become a light and a beacon for others. So what's really important during this Pisces energy is to first accept yourself, because if you love and accept yourself, you're not going to be drawn in by other people's stories. You are going to feel like, all right, I know who I am, I know what I believe. Now that doesn't say you're not open to new information, but it does say that that there are some core beliefs that you have that if these are beneficial to your spirit, then you should hang on to those. And it's not necessary to be, tossed around by the wind of whoever is speaking at the moment. Now, one of those things at the moment with the Pisces energy is to look at your hunches. And by hunches, it can be something that you're just drawn to, something that interests you, something that keeps coming back into your life over and over again. And it may not make so much sense on paper. And so that might be why you push it aside. You might say to yourself, I'm really interested in this, going and doing this activity, but I don't see how I could make money in it, or my parents won't approve, or things like that. But if this keeps coming back to you, then there's something that your soul is looking for, and it's part of your path. And so it is time to look at what that is. Now, of course, with this Pisces energy and Neptune being so close, we're not talking about things that would harm you. So things that are addictions or obsessions, too many videos or too many video games or drugs and alcohol or too much sugar or those sort of things, those are not the intuitive part of you moving in a direction that is something that is trying to pull you off of your path. So it's necessary to differentiate whether something is going to be of benefit for you. And again, you might be a person who says, well, I'm studying the video games because I'm going to write a video game someday. And that's fantastic. But get to the writing part, get to the working on it part, versus just spending hours and hours, feeling like you're behind because other people's video games are out there, or, that's probably not a great example, but it is that sometimes we can use a lot of things to give us a little space before we go do something, just because we're nervous about it. So if you're saying, I want to be a photographer, but I need a different camera, I can't use this camera, I have to use a different camera, then it's possible that you are using that to give yourself a little more space before you have to begin. And it's actually getting very close to the time to begin. Now, this can also be where you are needing to, for your soul, follow something that, again, may not look on paper as valuable. And so society may prefer you add lines to your resume, or that you add new certificates to your wall, but you want to do something else. And it's time to start to explore that in a very serious way. And that will tell you whether you just needed a tiny little piece or whether you need to immerse yourself in this. That's what this Pisces new moon can bring you. Now, at the beginning, I said we're not plagued by a bunch of aspects this time that are going to weigh us down. The things that we were doing in previous months that actually have been so overwhelming, those energies are really dissipating. The main aspect that we're going to be doing over the next 2 weeks is the Mars trine the Saturn. So this is a great aspect for bringing you more discipline, for increasing your concentration if you're going to be working on a difficult task. It's perfect for anything that takes a really long time to accomplish, where you need to do individual steps or individual practice. So I think it's where you need to just do the repetitive training on something. And that could be training for something physical, but it also could be doing, where you are taking 100 or 200 or 300 pictures a day to hone your abilities, or writing 1,000 words a day so that you get the practice in. During this trine, you do want to be careful about jumping into something that is going to saddle you with a bunch of responsibilities that are not necessarily part of your goal. And so you may get some opportunity to take a leadership role or something like that, but if it is just that you're going for the title rather than it being useful on your path, that you want to watch out for. That Mars can be a little impatient and a little impetuous, and yet the Saturn has to be answered to at some point. So that's why this is best used in something where you're doing very detailed work, very precise work, or something that requires great skill. Okay, let's go around the wheel sign by sign. So Aries natives, this new moon is in your 12th house, and that is means that it's rising in your chart. That's an extremely powerful position because it's on the horizon, and so it's very, very noticeable. So what can happen here is that you are noticed, but you may not notice that you're being noticed. And so you need to be aware that what you're putting out into the world could go out much, much farther than you're expecting. And you won't know which piece or post or anything is going to do that. So if you're doing some sort of marketing for a business or something like that, this is a great time to post. If you are saying something controversial, something that feels a little edgy, be careful, because this is something that could go out and ripple back to you in a way that you don't expect. The Mars trine Saturn's best use would be to look for productivity apps or any way that you can kind of do a mind dump onto a piece of paper, now you know how old I am, or some sort of app that is going to help you organize your thoughts and so that you can clear your mind for the creative work you need to do. So if you're keeping a list of things to do in your head, it's taking up bandwidth. So when we look at your relationships, you're not doing an aspect between Mars and Venus, and so there is a little bit of incompatible energy going on. That means usually that the timing's off. And because the sun and moon are in your 12th house and hidden, even though you might be wanting to connect to somebody, they connect to you, but you don't see their text in time, or you forget to call them because you're so busy, but something is off in the timing. So just put it on the back burner for now. When it comes to your home life, you're pulling energy from that moon in the 12th. And so there is this energy of being able to connect to relatives who are far away, but also relatives who have long passed, like ancestors. And so this is a great time to be thinking about, visiting a medium so they can talk to your ancestors, or just lighting a candle and meditating on things that your great-grandmother may have said to you or may be sending to you from the other side. You're pulling money from that Venus in the 12th house, and that means that when you do something out in the world, something may come to you from a source you weren't expecting. And so it's not going to feel so connected. You might do advertising on a platform and then a friend refers you a client or something like that. So it's going to feel, like there's not really a connection happening, but there is. And so it is also that when you do something that is a little bit more on the magical side, that would be like feng shui or prayer or meditation, you are more able to tap into money sources. And so you might want to do affirmations in the morning or hang some feng shui cures. Or if you have some feng shui cures up, you might want to pull them down, dust them off, and put them back up so that they are re-energized. And of course, Uranus is there, and it's going to be there for a long while. And I have talked about it a couple of times, but there is something that you should consider, and that is that Uranus, for everyone, while it goes through Taurus, is changing how we deal with money. And you could be one of the leaders of this. And that might mean that you need to be looking into cryptocurrencies or other ways of tracking money or saving money or things like that, and just be a guide and example for others. Now, this Uranus is going to be there a long time. I'm not trying to give you homework or anything like that, but just to recognize that you as an Aries are a natural leader anyway, and with Uranus there, how you make changes in how you deal with your own finances can be a guide for others. When we look at your investments and your income from business, we're not seeing an aspect between Venus and Pluto this time, and so it's not time to take profits. In fact, you might find that some of your stocks or securities are a little bit lower and you just need to wait things out and just hold on. This can be with business that you're putting a lot of time, energy, and funds into business, but you're not yet seeing the returns come from that. Again, this is energy that's going to shift every time we talk because, with you, you're a highly active person. And so there, just like the ocean, sometimes the wave comes in and there's lots, and sometimes it pulls out. And so right now we have this energy of more is going out than coming in. Now, when it comes to your money derived from career, you do have 3 planets in that house, and that does help. That's going to bring you some opportunities to make money. So that means, a possible new job or maybe a promotion. But the Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus or Saturn, so I don't expect you to actually get the bigger paycheck this time. Again, this energy will shift, but right now it's showing that more that you're getting the opportunity and that there's a lot of talk about this, but it hasn't quite manifested yet. When it comes to riskier investments where you do need to devote a lot of time, energy, or money, or they are something that is quite unusual to do, now we finally have a good aspect because we have Venus and the Sun in the same sign, and so you do have some opportunities for some sort of windfall in this area. As always, I want you to be very cautious, especially now because there's so much Pisces energy, so that can mean that some of the terms of the investment are unclear, or some of the contract stuff may not be as solid as you would like because it's Neptune can be pretty foggy. So, but there could be some real opportunities, especially in something that is quite creative. So Taurus natives, this new moon is in your area of community, also hopes and dreams and technology. And so this is the focus for you for the next 2 weeks. And starting with that list going the other way, technology means that you actually are more intuitive now with technology than you think. So this means that instead of just throwing up your hands and saying, I can't figure it out, just stop and actually have this communication with the device or with the software where you recognize that somebody has figured this out, somebody knows how to do this, and so you will as well. When it comes to hopes and wishes, it's a really good idea to write down your bigger plans at this time, to actually either, like pencil and paper and do it the old-fashioned way, where you write out a list and you put it under your pillow, and that allows it to become part of you. Or you can use any sort of app to do this where or just a Word file, just to write out what it is that you want, as that helps align your soul in that direction. And then when it comes to friendships and groups and organizations, you are doing a lot of energy in that area, so it would be good to look at if a group that you used to belong to is starting up again, or if there is some opportunities to get more involved in groups or charities, as then you can expand your circle of friends and really feel like you're connected to the community. The Mars-Saturn trine is really excellent this time for bringing you a career opportunity. It's likely, if you're looking for a job, that you'll get the interview and you may get the offer. And with some negotiation, you could even get the amount of salary that you're looking for, at least within a few percentage points. So now it does say that you if you jump towards the money, you are going to get some responsibilities as well. And so be aware that the more money you're looking for, the more responsibilities someone might saddle you with. But again, that could be something that you're really looking for and that you want, because this is a harmonious trine. It also, though, does say be careful about impulsively making purchases that you connect to a career or a profession that you want to do. And that is that sudden desire to go out and buy a lot of equipment for something that you're just starting with. See if there's some equipment you can borrow, or see if there's a cheaper way to start out with something maybe more basic that can be upgraded later. When it comes to relationships, the energy is it's just barely there. It's just kind of like a little bud, but it hasn't bloomed into a flower or fruit or anything like that. So it's this relationship between Venus and Pluto, and it's just a little wide for my taste. And so that means that you might be looking for connections and looking for a relationship to happen, or even just a conversation with your sweetheart, but it is just not coming together. I see more desire happening than actually it happening in real life. That's okay. This energy will shift in a couple weeks, so just kind of wait it out. And if you're feeling really focused on it, see if you can't distract yourself by doing something else. When it comes to your home, you're pulling energy from the sun up in the 11th house, and this says that maybe some friends are coming to visit, or that you are sharing all your renovation pictures with friends and family out in the world somewhere. This also could be that you start some sort of group from your home and reach the community that way, or maybe you are building a community garden or renovating a park in the area. So there's more pulling you outside the house, pulling you away from home than keeping you there. When it comes to your money, you now have Mars going through the second house, and this is fantastic. You have a short period of time, a couple of months maximum, where you can actually take action that directly leads to money. And that means that if you've been thinking about launching a business or doing a side business or anything, like even selling stuff around the house, you can take the action and manifest money now. So you don't want to miss this energy. Additionally, you're pulling money from that Mercury up in the 10th house, and that is about career and your reputation. And so there is this energy that you could go to your boss and say, look, I have finished all these tasks, and I've led this team and I want a promotion. It is also about marketing your business. And marketing, when I talk about marketing, there is the conventional type of marketing and the spiritual type of marketing, and you can do both. In fact, I recommend both. And so sometimes that is sitting and meditating and visualizing clients coming to you or your business expanding in some way. And that is incredibly effective. And it is the most effective when you couple it with something where when the person does think of you, they can easily find your contact information. And so that's where the two things come together. And so that's the energy that you're doing. When it comes to investments and the money you might be accumulating through business or things like affiliate marketing and things like that, the Mercury is pulling away from the Jupiter. And so there isn't as strong an ability to accumulate the money this time. That means that, the money is still in the other person's hands. They haven't actually maybe paid you yet, but there could be a contract to be paid. Maybe they pay over 30 days or 60 days or something like that. Or you have investments where you can see them growing, but it's just not time to cash them in yet. And so the energy here is that I feel like there's some accumulation, but it's mostly on paper right now. It's not actually money in your hands. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you have a great house with the Venus, Neptune, Moon, Sun. So you do have a lot of possibilities of additional sources of income or better commission schedule or things like that. Mercury is making a little semi-sextile to the Neptune, so maybe what all this extra money from your career comes with some sort of strings or something like that, and so you might need to look at why they're giving you the extra money, why you're getting these bonuses or things like that. Are they trying to obligate you to stay longer than you want at this position? So keeping that in mind, I do think you will be making more money than usual in your career. And when it comes to risky investments, that is things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get started, like a franchise or something like that. The Mercury's now moving forward. It's coming towards the end of the sign, and then it will go into Pisces. And so there is a little bit of energy left for finding people who are going to collaborate with you, finding people who are going to bring some expertise or some actual cash to the venture. And so you should be focusing on that. As it changes signs, something will change in all of the negotiations and things like that. So keep that in mind. Someone might bring a new provision to the contract, or something maybe that the city or the county does that affects your business. So watch for that. You'll be able to weather that, but you don't want to not think about it. You don't want to skip it. So Gemini natives, this new moon falls in your house of career and reputation, and so you are the most noticeable now and over this next couple of weeks, and that means that your resume can float to the top of the pile, that your supervisor sees you. You might be leading a meeting or leading a team, and so what you're doing is seen. Now, what you're doing is seen can work both ways, and that means that you do want to watch out for what you're posting. You don't want to send out things that could be misconstrued or controversial right now. Stick with things that are optimistic and healing to be in line with this energy. Now, that's especially true for this Mars trine Saturn, because Saturn is in your house of integrity and your personal code, your own rules, and the Mars is in your own sign. And so you take the high energy that you Gemini natives are, and you marry that with impulsive Mars, and you could get yourself into a situation where you feel that you are having to break one of your own rules, and not a rule that you should break, but a rule that is keeping you in integrity. So that's just a little thing to watch out for. This is, though, a trine, and so this does say on the positive side that you can take lots of actions where you can use your education, your wisdom. So this is very good for teaching, publishing, writing. It is good for connecting with people who live far away from you. So you have some really good opportunities. From a business standpoint, I would use this to find a great product, maybe that is manufactured overseas, and connect with somebody who is a representative from that company so that you can get your prototypes, or you can get some samples or things like that. Or if you're a writer, this is the time to take all of that jumble of stuff and put it in the proper order and get it, up on Amazon, get it published, get it out there in the world. When it comes to relationships, the Mars is in your first house, and so therefore you may be quite active about relationships this time, and because it works both ways, you might be chased a little bit, but there is no connection between Mercury and Jupiter. And I just said no connection, but I should say that they're separating, and that means that it feels very fleeting. So during this time, you may meet somebody and you're quite interested in them, but they're not calling you back. And that may be because it's not a match, or it could be that they're just super busy. So, but if you are, hounding them with texts, or you're sitting by the phone waiting for their text, then that can be very frustrating. So it would be better, you can plant a seed and, say, hey, I like you a lot. I want to get to know you more. But if nothing comes of it, just let it go, because something else will come when this energy lines up again. For your home life, you are pulling energy from that Mercury, which is going to cross the highest point in your chart. And so this is about looking at the bigger picture of how you and your family are interacting with the community at large, or perhaps you're doing a business and now it's time to launch that business into the world. There's much more of an elevated feeling, and so that can also be that you are, working on the curb appeal of the house, the things that other people see, the externals, versus things that are internal. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that moon up in the house of career. So what a great combination that is. That means that as you put yourself in charge of something, and that can be that you just put yourself in charge of your career to say, you know what, I'm going to work hard at my career. I'm going to get my reports in on time. I'm going to be, pleasant at the meetings. I'm going to show up to the meetings and things like that, that you can actually materially benefit yourself. You will bring in more money. When we look at investment income or money from a business or money from a family business, we do see that there is no connection between the moon and the Saturn. And that does mean that you're not accumulating more than usual. And I can't stress enough that there's a difference between making money and accumulating money. Making money means it's flowing in, and your second house is good for bringing in money. It just means that the money is going out again. And this could be that you're working to pay down debt, or that there's some other things that you need to buy. And so the money comes into your hands and it immediately goes out again. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just sometimes that happens. And of course, if you're paying down debt, that's great, because in the long run, that's really going to help you out. Now, we have a similar sort of issue when we look at your money derived from career, again, because the moon is not making an aspect with the Mars, and so we see the money flowing in, and most certainly because, again, that ruler of the second is up in that house of career, but we are not seeing the money being saved or accumulated. You can get a few coins and put them in the piggy bank, but otherwise the money is flowing out there, it's flowing out again. And so this is very much of, you're working on things, and as long as the money is flowing to things that are benefiting you, that's not necessarily a problem. This is also energy that is going to shift. Now, when it comes to money that comes from riskier investments, and these are those long-term things that are either very unusual or they take a lot of time and energy to do. And I would even include like having a YouTube channel in this, since it is so much time and energy, and I don't know about you, but mine grows very, very slowly. And so this, you are showing an excellent aspect for that ability to make great progress. And that is, there is a connection between the Venus and the moon. And so during this 2-week period, you really want to push forward on whatever bigger projects that you're doing, because you are actually showing some traction here with this. And of course, as always with risky investments, do read all the contracts and things like that. You do have that Mars Saturn in that 1-9, which does talk about contracts. So the Saturn says read every line and understand it before you move forward and sign something. So for Cancer natives, this new moon is in harmonious Pisces, and it means that things that you do spiritually and things that you read or study or things like that can be also quite healing for you. They can give you new ideas and optimism about moving forward in the future. And so you have some great opportunities there. It's also good for connecting with people who live far away. I don't know that anybody's traveling yet unless it's necessary, but this is good for connecting with people that maybe you will travel to see later in the year or next year. So if you're thinking about doing travel plans, then this is a good aspect for that. One of the things is, of course, because you're a water sign and this is a water sign new moon, even if you could just get in the car and go to the ocean or go to a lakeside or go to sit by a creek or something like that, it is very good for you. Now, the Mars trine Saturn is a very interesting aspect for you this time because the Mars is obscured in your 12th house. And so you might not realize that you are taking the action and boom, suddenly there's more responsibility or some other sort of obstacle or block in your path. So this is something you have to be aware of because this Mars is not so accessible to you. Now, Saturn is in your house of investments and resources and things like that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but some of that can be that that you get overdrawn in your account because the Mars did something impulsively, but you didn't realize that you were doing it that way. And, something like when you set your credit card payment up for automatic payment, but instead of hitting minimum payment, you hit balance payment, and then suddenly your account is empty. That sort of thing can happen during this time, so that's where you want to be aware. Now, the Mars in the 12th house does give you lots of energy, and that part's great, but because, as I said, it can be impulsive, it can cause you to take an action before you've really thought it through. And so find a way to take a breath before you click buy now, or before you invest, or before you do most anything that is going to lead towards something where you could gain, a block or more responsibility. When it comes to relationships, you're not doing an aspect between Moon and Saturn, and so there is not a lot of connection happening, and that means that maybe you are texting back and forth with somebody, or that you are emailing through a dating app, but it's hard to get together right now. It might even be hard to get a phone call happening. And so what's important is not to build up an idea in your mind that you don't know if that's going to be true. So don't start planning the wedding until you've met the person. And you're probably not meeting the person over the next 2 weeks, so just try and work on something else. For home life, you are pulling energy from that Venus up in the 9th house, and so there could be a lot of focus on education. Maybe your kids are doing some school at home, or perhaps you're studying something. This is really an excellent time to try to get through like a real estate course, or some quicker course that you might find on Skillshare or Udemy or something like that. I do have a couple of programs on Udemy for Feng Shui or Western astrology, so check those out. The links are in the description box below. Yeah, that was an impromptu advertisement. So this is also about bringing more spiritual practices home, and they're usually a little bit more structured, but this could also be things like like a daily meditation, journaling, prayer, but also could go towards something like chanting, or some dancing the elements or things like that. When it comes to money, you're pulling money from that sun right at the top of your chart, which means that it is you putting yourself out there in the world that actually makes you money. That is where you might send a resume to somebody, but then locate them on LinkedIn and send them a direct message, or where you are actually going into your boss's office and say, hey, let's talk about my future at this company. This is you putting yourself out there. Now, because you're so visible, do be careful that you are not posting something that is going to be seen as controversial or could be seen in any way disparaging your company, because that is also going to be seen. But when it does come to money, you have some good money flowing in. Now, when it comes to investments and passive income sources, when it comes to business income, you have Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury in your 8th house. That's fantastic. That gives you lots of different options and things that you can do. There's no aspect going on right now between the Sun and Uranus, and so it's not so much that you're accumulating the money, you're not taking the profits at this time, but you're probably pouring the money back into the company, and that is that you make some money and then you upgrade your equipment, or you bring in a personal assistant or something like that. So there is money flowing out. From an investment standpoint, this would be just reinvesting your profits. Now, when it comes to your money derived from career, you do have Uranus going through that house, and you will for a long, long time. And this does say that it is probable that you will need at some point over the next few years to look at new ways of making money. But that aside, you are doing an excellent aspect between the Sun and Venus. They're both in the same sign, and they're close enough that they're talking to each other. This does mean that you're likely to make more in commissions, or you're making more money because you're working more hours, or you're actually getting a raise and it's showing up in your paycheck. When it comes to riskier investments, where we might call them gambling, which in these days does include some of the stock market, certainly day trading, but also, buying a franchise where you're having to put a lot of money down, or doing something that takes a long time, like if you are, building a following on Patreon or something like that. So with this energy, you are doing the Sun making a sextile to Pluto. That's a good aspect. Now, a sextile means that you could accumulate money, that you can make some profits at this time, but that some sort of action is needed to make this happen. With the Pluto in the 7th house, that could be that you need to connect with a partner or find some sort of mentor to help you figure things out, but you have really good energy this time, so you do want to explore this. For Leo natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of resources. This means you have more access to anything we would consider resources, and that includes capital for a business, or a loan to consolidate other loans, or new interest rates on credit cards, or things like that. So there are more investment opportunities for you. There's more ways for you to make passive income this time. Now, the Mars trine Saturn is where you are looking at doing something for the collective and ending up with obligations to an individual. And so, and how that could work is perhaps maybe that is volunteering for something in the group, but then having some difficulty with the president of the group because they don't like the way you're doing things. Or you are volunteering your time out in the world, but your significant other wants you to spend more time at home. Now, that I said 2 examples there, and those both sounded a little on the negative side. This is still a positive aspect, which does say that when you're doing something out in the world, in the community, you could make some really good connections that become long-term relationships. And so there is some reason to actually put yourself out there in the world this time, because you could meet your new best friend, you could meet your next partner, you could meet somebody who is instrumental in your future. When we look at your home life, it is ruled by that Mars and the Pluto. And so the Pluto's in your 6th house. We talk about that every time. So that is about, looking at the processes you do and transforming how you keep house, how you meal prep, how you get the laundry done, how to get the kids to help, and all of that. So, but the Mars in your 11th house, that's the new part of this. And that says that there's more of an energy of pulling yourself out of the home and going and doing other things. And in this day and age, maybe that's not so possible to be around people, but there are plenty of parks to be in, and national parks, or just driving and all of that. So finding your way out into the world is what this aspect is talking about. So when we look at your money, you are drawing money from that Mercury in the 7th house, and that says that the more people you meet, the more connections you make, whether that is in person or online, the more money you're going to make. And so you want to be reaching out to people as individuals, not necessarily just blanketing a neighborhood with your flyers, but actually direct messaging people or responding to their comments. When we look at your investment income or income that comes from a business, you have an amazing 8th house this time, Venus, Neptune, Sun, Moon, and that means that you have many, many opportunities to make money. It means it can come from many sources. That means different investments could be doing well, etc. But the ability to accumulate money, which is different than making money. Making money is the having it flow in. Accumulating means you keep it. That accumulation factor is not as strong because Mercury is separating from the Jupiter. And that means that you're probably reinvesting profits this time. You're not necessarily hanging on to the money. And that also means that if you normally take money from a business, you're putting it back into a business. If you're normally taking from investments, you're putting it back into the same types of investments. And so because accumulation would be that you moved it to something else and gave you a sense that it was growing. So this is more that it comes in, but it needs to be spent, so it goes out. Now, I just said all of that, but it also can be that the money that comes in from investments or the money that comes in from your business go out for daily needs. That is also possible when you're not showing strong accumulation ability. And so, again, money is flowing in. I really think that you're getting more money, but it just seems to be going right out again. When it comes to money derived from career, you have Mars going through your 11th house, and this says that you can take a lot of action to gain more money. That is fantastic. It might mean, because of the Gemini energy, that you are getting a side business or something like that, but it also means that just by communicating your desire or your need for more money, that you could find yourself getting a raise or bonus or some perhaps temporary increase, but still it's an increase. And this is ruled by that Mercury in your 7th house, which again says go talk to somebody. And so this Mercury being at the end of the sign says that you have a limited time to do this. So even though we're talking about the next 2 weeks, I would do it in the next week. When it comes to riskier investments or things that are very unconventional, then you are doing that separating aspect of Mercury and Jupiter. And so they're both in the 7th house. That says go talk to somebody about it, go get somebody else's advice, or maybe 2 people, because both the planets are there. But it is not saying you're not going to accumulate or make a lot of money on it during this period. So that means that you might be just plugging along on something that's long term. But if you're thinking about getting into something now, the window of opportunity may have closed. And so you may want to wait until this energy shifts into something else. So for Virgo natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of relationships, and that is that relationships are highlighted. So if you're looking for love or looking for friendship, this is the time, because there are more people out there who are looking for you. So this is a time where you want to put yourself out there and connect to people. At the same time, this is always going to be in Pisces. When we have Pisces energy, it does hit your house of relationships, which means that you tend to attract the wounded puppy as well as those people who are spiritually, mentally, physically strong. So, and you have to kind of weed things out. If you want to take care of a wounded puppy, make it an actual puppy and heal that puppy, rather than, bringing somebody into your life who's going to need all of your time and energy and expertise. And then there's no reciprocation. There's no back and forth. So especially now, because you have these 4 planets in that 7th house, be quite aware. If in the past you have really tried to heal somebody, or you found somebody who's just so desperate and you don't feel that that's what you want to do in a relationship, then this is the time to be aware that it could be the person you're attracting now is just a repeat from the past, somebody who is like a difficult relationship you had in the past. So, and I don't want to seem negative about this. I just want to warn you that your boundaries may be breached by someone who is very much like someone you used to see. And so the end could be the same as before. When it comes to your home life, you of course are pulling energy from that Jupiter in the 6th, which you're going to be doing at least for a few more months, and then it'll pop into another house and then it will be back. I'll tell you about that later. So this is very much about using your knowledge and abilities to make the house run really well. If the house is running well, like, you always have milk when you need it, the laundry's always done and folded when you need it, then you have time, energy, and bandwidth for doing the bigger projects. So this is about looking at the routine, seeing how you can change those up, or seeing how you can get help from those in the house to get everything running really smoothly. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Venus in the 7th house. That means the more people that you meet and connect with, the more money you're going to make. And so this means connecting with people on a one-on-one basis. That is not that you are doing some marketing or that you are, skywriting or something like that. This is about individually meeting people and connecting on a one-on-one basis. So direct messages, phone calls, personal emails, things like that are what's going to bring you more clients or money opportunities. When it comes to your money derived from investment sources, passive income sources, or business, you are not doing an aspect between Venus and Mars. Now, Mars is elevated, which is good news, but it doesn't show an ability right now for you to take profits, or maybe the profits that you take are being pushed right back into the business. So this isn't necessarily a bad thing. So because I do see you making money if you go out and contact others and connect with others, but it is not necessarily time to be selling investments or taking profits. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you have some very good energy because you not only have the Mars in the 10th house, you also have a good connection between the Venus and the Moon. And so therefore, I see you making more money than usual. This could be maybe a bonus or better commission schedule, or perhaps you're just making more money in general. And so you have very good luck when it comes to money derived from career now. When it comes to risky investments or investments that take a long time to get going, or take a great deal of money to get going, or are so exotic and different that nobody really does them, you are not doing an aspect this time, and so there's no aspect between the Venus and the Saturn, plus Pluto is there. And so right now, stick to research, stick to asking other people what their opinions are, but it's not a good time to make the investment. So for Libra natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your 6th house, and that is about routines, habits, productivity, how you get things done during the day, also your health and well-being, how much you exercise, do you eat your vegetables, stuff like that. So that's where the energy is highlighted. And so anything that you can do around this, it's so interesting as the new moon is there anyway, you're going to be drawn to doing those things. So as you are, go with that rather than saying, oh, you know what, I can't work out now, or I can't work on productivity because I'm too busy, or things like that. So when it comes to the Mars-Saturn trine, the interesting thing is that the Mars is up in your house of teaching, where you can impart information, but the Saturn is in your house of risk-taking and creativity, where you may feel like, I'm ready to go teach, but I don't know what to teach, or I want to be published, or maybe somebody is saying, we want to publish you, and you're saying it's not ready yet. Now, this energy is a trine, and so if you sit down and do the work and use your determination and focus, you can, do the editing or craft your product and get it out into the world. So I think that overall, this is a really excellent aspect for you, but just recognize you're going to feel like maybe you have writer's block or musician block, if that's a thing, where you don't feel like your creative energy is worthy of being published, but it is. When it comes to your relationships, Venus and Mars aren't speaking to each other right now, and that's going to be kind of what's happening, is that phone calls are missed, you might be too busy to get together, or just, like maybe you like someone and they're like a little lukewarm, or you're not sure about somebody but they really like you, and so everything's kind of a mismatch this time. It's like two ships passing in the night, and so just wait, because this energy will get better in the future. When we look at your energy about home, it's of course that connected to Saturn, and so I'll be talking about this same thing over and over. You guys will be bored, but one of the reasons that Saturn does rule this house for you is because you get a long time to work on issues around home, whereas somebody else who has a ruler such as maybe the moon only has a very short period of time to work on it, and then another issue comes up and another issue comes up, and so they are working at things differently. So Saturn is in this house of risk-taking, creativity, and children, and so this might be where you are working on getting your kids to be more independent, or that you are doing some creative projects but you haven't released them into the world, like I was saying before with that Mars-Saturn trine. And then also that, you're looking at what you think is a risk to take, and if that is a true risk, or where you are taking risks where you should be more prudent. When we're looking at your money, you are pulling money from that Pluto in the 4th, but also the Mars in the 9th. So the Pluto in the 4th is going to be there a long while. That's related to real estate or working at home or things like that. Also transforming those ideas that your parents or grandparents gave you about money. But most importantly is you're doing that Mars in the 9th house. And that means that you are pulling money in when you tell people what you know, when you are showing people what you can do. And so this is, it doesn't have to be a conventional way of teaching. It could just be that you are announcing to the world, this is how I believe you should do something, or this is my experience with it. This is also about connecting with people in foreign countries, or connecting with people who live at a great distance. When it comes to your investment income or money from your business, of course, you have Uranus there, which does say that over the next few years, you do want to consider how money is handled and the changes that money is going through and things like that. Just different investments and how there's so many choices now. But more importantly, when we are looking at whether you can accumulate money this time, we do not have an aspect between Mars and Pluto and the Venus. The Venus is making a really wide sextile to that Pluto, so I don't really count it. It's more of a desire to do something, whereas you may not have the ability to do it. So I think that what you're going to find is more that there's a promise that you're going to make some money, like somebody says, yes, I'm going to buy your biggest package, or that your broker says, yeah, this is a sure thing, but it's not really, because you don't show your ability to grab hold of it during this period. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, we do have some good news, because the Sun is making a sextile to that Pluto, and that does mean you're likely to make more money than usual in your career. And of course, that can come from many different sources, including working more hours, and that makes you more money because the Sun is in the 6th house. And so that may not be, so great because you're having to work more hours, but it does show that more money is coming in, and so that also could be a raise or a bonus or more commission. When it comes to risky investments, and these are things that you put a lot of time and energy in, or a lot of money in, like buying another business or a franchise, or doing something that's so different that other people kind of shy away from it. What I'm seeing here is there's the possibility of making some money, but here's why. Traditionally, we would look at this as the relationship between Pluto and Uranus, and there isn't one. However, the co-ruler of your second house is Mars, and the co-ruler of your house of risky investments is Saturn, and they are making the trine. Now, a trine can be wonderful, but a trine also is something that can be so easy that you think, oh, why bother? And so it's possible that some sort of investment opportunity comes, but you're just not necessarily paying attention to it. And again, I would feel better if we had a connection between Pluto and Uranus to say, yes, you're going to accumulate money. So this is more that it feels a little derivative, and and that's, of course, a type of risky investment. And so it's necessary for you to really keep an eye on this before you jump in. For Scorpio natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of risk-taking, creativity, kids, fertility, romance. So you have lots of different opportunities, but what it does is it highlights this area for you. So if you were thinking about having kids, now you might be thinking about it more, or you might be getting into a romance. I focus more on this channel about personal finance, and so this is about some possibilities towards more risky investments where maybe your creativity is on the line, like you're doing a t-shirt business, or you're bringing some products you designed in from another country or something like that. Now, for you, it's interesting because the Mars trine Saturn is connected to resources from others and your home and family. So what this can be is that perhaps a family member is willing to invest in you and give you some help. It is also possible that you're using your house to bring in some more money, or because you do have some property or something of value that you're able to get loans. And because it's a trine, it could happen quite easily. You do want to make sure, though, that you don't put your home at risk by taking some sort of impulsive actions when it comes to investing or something like that, because that also, like, don't mortgage the house to do investments with this aspect because it's just too risky. When it comes to relationships, you're not doing an aspect between the Venus and Mars, and the Venus-Pluto aspect is wide. And this gets me to feel like this can't quite happen this time. Now, the Uranus going through your 7th house, that's going to be going through there for a couple of years. This just says don't necessarily go for the type you went for before. Branch out, look for somebody different. Now, in the relationship energy, if you are patient, the Venus will get closer to this aspect with the Pluto, and that can help, but it's not quite there yet. And so I feel like the energy is that somebody says, yes, I really want to meet you, but I can't for the next couple of weeks. And so don't push it, just wait. And if you find yourself in the same situation, somebody really wants to meet you and you don't have the time, it is okay to say, you know what, we just have to wait until my schedule clears. When it comes to home life, you're doing the Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury there, and that Mercury is that new energy there. So there's a lot of activity at home. That could be that you're getting people visiting, or you're doing some sort of renovations, or you're fixing some things. It's pulling energy from that Uranus in the 7th, which kind of confirms that you're going outside to pull in somebody into the home, maybe, again, for repairs or something like that. So this is enough energy now that we have some movement. So if you are looking for a new place to live, I think you're going to find that place now. Or if you have just moved, you have some extra energy there for getting settled. When it comes to your income, you are pulling money from that Jupiter in the 4th house, and that's going to be happening for a while, and at least till we get to summer, and then we're going to have some new energy. So your home-based business is really good for you, or doing something connected with real estate or Airbnb, or having a lot of roommates or something like that. Those are all ways for you to do it. I think that also, if you do find that you work outside the home, you find that you work outside the home. If you work outside the home, this could also mean that you need to get into the mindset when you're at home of what you're going to do out in the world. When it comes to passive income sources or money from a business, you now have Mars in this house and you'll have it for a couple of months. And that means you want to take a lot of focused action in this area. And it's in Gemini. Of course, it'll always be in Gemini when it's in this house for you. But that means study, ask people, listen to podcasts about this, take a course on this, collect as much information as possible. Now, that said, when we look at your accumulation of money, and that is your ability to take profits, that is a little strained right now because the Mercury is separating from the Jupiter, and that means that it's more likely that the profits that you would get need to go right back out for something. Either you're plowing it back into the investment or into the business, or it's going out for necessities rather than being accumulated. So I see you making money, but the accumulation's not quite happening yet. When it comes to money derived from career, of course, you're doing that same aspect. Mercury is separating from the Jupiter. Now, the Mercury is getting close to the end of the sign, and so there can be, during this 2-week period, some sort of change that will give you an opportunity to talk to somebody, but still, I don't feel like you're getting the results from that over this next couple of weeks. I think if you feel like you don't want to say anything, you don't want to ask for a raise or something like that, I think that's perfectly fine. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are things that are more exotic or things that take an awful lot of time and energy or money to get going, you do have a very strong house with the Venus, Neptune, Moon, Sun. So not only do you have more opportunities, but you're going to find people bringing you opportunities. Now, you are also doing a semi-sextile between the Jupiter and the Neptune, and that can mean that you can make some profits, that you can make some headway on something like this. Now, this is, though only a semi-sextile, I still like an aspect. I think an aspect is what you need to make this connection, but because it's a semi-sextile, there is still something that is irritating or something you don't like about this. And so use caution about this. I'm going to say that a lot anyway, because when you're doing this much energy there's going to be a desire to jump in. And I'm going to still say, please don't jump in. Put a toe in the water, test things out always. But you are doing better energy for this than you have done in some time. Okay, Sagittarius natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your 4th house of home and family. Also about foundations, how you were raised and how that speaks to what you do now. And so we have a great deal of energy around looking at family patterns and breaking them. The bad ones anyway. And then also we have a lot of activity at home because there's Venus, Neptune, Moon, and Sun in your area of home and family. And so that could mean that the family is coming together. Maybe kids are home on spring break, or that you just have a sense of family. So even if they live far away, you're on Zoom with them and you're connecting with them. When we look at the Mars trine Saturn, the Mars is in your house of relationships. That's excellent for pulling in new people, for both love and friendship. But the Saturn is in your house of communication. And so as you connect with somebody, there can be the obligation that you start the conversation, that you're the one that texts first, that you're the one that suggests the place to go, and so forth. And when you take that sort of responsibility, then things flow. So it also can be that you have to watch your communication, that you might have to tone down language or say things in a different way to make that connection. But it is a trine, so you can do it. And so this energy says really good things can happen in the area of relationships for you. Now, taking what I just said about relationships, we need to add in the fact that Mercury is separating from the Jupiter, and that does mean that there could be more of a long distance thing going on, that you may not be able to get together, or that your schedules aren't lining up this time. And so when you're making your connections, especially to new people, I'm seeing more time spent in using communication devices versus face-to-face, and it's good to be understanding about that. So when we look at your home life, I already talked about how great that house looks for you. You are pulling energy from the Neptune in the 4th and the Jupiter in the 3rd. The Jupiter in the 3rd energy is talking about neighbors and the people in the close community. So during this time, because you're pulling energy from there, you do have to watch whether there's some issues about parking or where your neighbors are leaving their trash can or something else that's bothering you. But in general, I think this means that you're getting along with your neighbors. Maybe you have some, vacancy that's nearby you, and that's a time where you want to meditate on who you would like as a neighbor, light a candle and put a list, underneath the candle, like underneath the candle holder, and then there's a candle, etc., and of what you would like in a great neighbor. I mean, if you actually use your intention to say, I want somebody who, is nice and quiet, who occasionally walks my dog, you can attract a great neighbor. When it comes to your money, of course, you have Pluto going through the 2nd house, which you have had for years, Pluto's job was to transform how you dealt with money. And so I would imagine that at this point in the transit, your money situation is probably transformed a few times. Pluto is kind of a rags to riches, and then can take you from riches to rags and then back up to riches again. And so there could have been, over the last few years, big fluctuations. This Pluto is still going to be there for a while. So if you find yourself at a low point, you still can go for higher. But if you are at a high point, you do want to do things to help protect your investments, your income, and all of that, because Pluto can be a little volatile at times. Now, you're pulling money from that Saturn in the 3rd, and I'm going to be saying this quite often to you too. Saturn will be going through this house for a long time, and so and you might say, well, you keep saying the same thing to me, but that's because you have a long time to work on this issue, and that is how you communicate, both to others and to yourself, directly affects your money. And so you still have a couple of years, literally years, to hone this ability. And maybe that is kind of a Zig Ziglar, how to be a good salesperson, or this is how to be empathetic or connect to people on different levels. Maybe this is about getting into electronic means of communicating through social media and things like that. But this is all about communication. When it comes to your investment income or your money from business, we don't see an aspect between Saturn and the Moon, and so therefore we don't see accumulation of money. So you can bring in money, and that money seems to be going right out, so you're not making more money than usual. And so that's, in a business, that makes sense. Perhaps money is coming in, but you're investing in new equipment. Perhaps in an investment, you are taking the money out and you're using to pay the mortgage off or something like that. But you don't show more money than usual. When it comes to money derived from career, you also are not doing an aspect. There's no aspect between the Saturn and the Venus. And so you're making about the same amount of money as usual. So this means that if you had gone in this week or last week and asked for a raise and you're not getting that raise, look at how you can adjust your communication about that. Look how you asked and what they said back to you, and how you can use the actual words to communicate something differently. But otherwise, you're making about the same as usual. Now, when it comes to riskier investments, and that is investments that take a lot of time, energy, expertise, or money to get going, now you have an aspect, and that is the Mars trine Saturn. And so this is very much about going out and connecting with people who are knowledgeable, who are willing to invest with you, or at least give you their expertise. And as you do that, you can really grow this concern. And so anything from, somebody guiding you on how to get your YouTube channel going, or helping you to buy a business or something like that, that's where I see the strong positive energy. Okay, Capricorn natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of communication, and that is communication you put out in the world, and then also how you speak to yourself. And that's where I think that the most change can happen, is how you are speaking to yourself. Are you going and talking to yourself in an optimistic way, in a healing way, in a gentle way, or are you berating yourself and, telling yourself what you're doing wrong or things like that? Because you have the opportunity to make that change this time. This also says you can get great benefits from doing some sort of meditation. And even if meditation hasn't worked for you in the past, give it a try over this next 2 weeks. It can be really beneficial for you. Now, when it comes to that Mars trine Saturn, it is connecting your house of work with your house of money. So that is really good news. That means as you do work, money flows in. And Saturn is not as difficult for you as it is for other signs because it's your planetary ruler. So this trine is really excellent for you. So if you had found that you were procrastinating before, now you really want to buckle down and do it because you have more of an ability to have a direct correlation between what you do and the money you make. When it comes to relationships, we again look to that Saturn, but unfortunately it's not making an aspect to the Venus, and therefore the relationship energy does seem to be out of sync. And that is, you might meet somebody, but you're feeling a little uncertain about them, so you drag your feet about doing a first date, or they're very busy, and so you can't get connected. Because the Venus is in the house of communication, you might miss their text, you might miss their email or whatever message they sent, or you could even misconstrue what they said, and so you might be telling yourself, no, they don't really want to date when they did. So if at all possible, just focus on something else during this period. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that Mars in the 6th, and that means look at the processes that you're doing to get through the day. And that is, do you have your emergency supplies? Do you have a good system for getting the laundry done? Do you do meal preps or things like that? And as you get the house in order, and this could also be, like cleaning out stuff you don't need, things become simpler and a big section of your life becomes easier, and that gives you more time and energy and bandwidth for focusing on something else. So that this also does indicate that you might be bringing in people who are going to do certain tasks. So this could be having a house cleaning service or somebody to come in to do some repairs. When it comes to income from investments or from a business that you own, there is no aspect between the Sun and Uranus, and so you're not necessarily accumulating more money this time. That means more money is going out than coming in. Perhaps you are making some investments or buying new equipment or things like that. I feel like there's a lot of outflow going on right now, and that could be that you are really making a substantial investment in whatever it is you want to do, or you're paying down debt or something like that. But it does feel like during this period, there is a lot of outflow and less income. When it comes to money derived from career, now we have something that's a little tricky because we're looking specifically for an aspect between Uranus and Pluto, and we don't have one. But the co-ruler of Aquarius is Saturn, and the co-ruler of Scorpio is Mars, and those two are making a trine. So I feel like even though you might be hitting a wall where somebody's saying no, if you push, you could get a yes. And it also does indicate that if you look at what you're trying to do and actually literally take the easier route, you could gain. So that could mean, though, that you're going back to a company that you worked for before, or working again for a boss that you worked for before, or something else that seems very familiar. So I think that it's very much on the edge. You could make and accumulate much more money because of that trine, or you could miss it because it just felt like it was too easy, or it kind of slips your mind and you don't take the action. When it comes to risky investments, and these are the investments that take a lot of time and effort to make them happen, or a lot of money to make them happen, you don't have an aspect going on between Venus and Uranus, and so this is a time to be quite cautious about these investments. That is, this is not a time to be signing the contract. That Venus is in the house of agreements, but because the energy is not lining up, I feel like maybe you'd miss some important provision or forget to put it in the contract, or that they say, let's not do a contract, we'll just handshake on it, and then you have trouble later. So be really careful when it comes to your risky investments. Okay, Aquarius natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of money. So this is a time where you really want to lean in, and you're going to find that money can come from multiple sources. And that is, not just a business or a career, but also maybe from selling things, or, that somebody makes you an offer for a side business or something like that. So this is a really good time to focus in on income. It is also a time, though, to look at the possessions that you have and your spending habits and see if those are in line with your bigger goals. It is so easy now to acquire things. It's one click, and then my UPS guy shows up at my door with all these boxes, and it's so fun, but it is not great for the bottom line. And so that is the energy that you're doing this time, that your wants might be stronger than your needs. And at this time, you want to make sure that what you are bringing into your life is in line with your goals. When we look at the Mars trine Saturn, Saturn is in your own sign of Aquarius, and so there is this idea that the Mars is ready to create. You have the ideas, and the Saturn is there with you doing the work, doing all the details that are necessary to make something good, but you may lack the confidence. And that's where I want to say push anyway. You might feel like, oh, you know what, I don't know if my photography is good enough, but let other people see your pictures and see what they say. This aspect allows you to focus in on something and learn to do it really well. And not that you can do that in just 2 weeks, but it is about incrementally getting better and focusing your time and energy on something that you do want to improve. And here we have this connection between you and your creativity really strong, so you don't want to miss that aspect. When it comes to your relationships, of course, you have the Saturn, Jupiter, and now Mercury there, and that does mean that relationship possibilities are out there. People are going to come in and want to meet you, but the interesting thing is there's no aspect between the Sun and Uranus right now, and that does indicate that you might not have the time, or you might not think that they're a good match, or something is causing you to hold back, and that's okay, because it does say that the timing is off. So you might say, okay, I do want to meet you, and then suddenly they can't, or you say, oh, let's meet at this corner, and then they go to a different corner, or something like that. So the energy is not lining up this time, so don't put a lot of energy towards this when you could use your energy for other things. When it comes to home life, you are pulling energy from that Venus in that second house of money. And that's where I was thinking, where you might be maybe buying things for the house, or, doing a little too much spending from your own home. Uranus is going through this house, and it will be for a long time. But what it says is don't do things the ordinary way. Live differently, live extraordinarily. And so that is, maybe you want to be more frugal, or, maybe you want to do a maximalist life, but there are ways to do it where you're not breaking the bank. So the Venus connection right now does say that, happy things can happen at home. That's lovely. But overall, it says, look at the things that you have in your life and really cherish those things rather than bringing in a lot of new stuff. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from every which direction possible, because you have Venus, Neptune, Sun, and Moon in your house of money. So you may be pulling in money from multiple sources, and this could be something that's temporary or something that later becomes a regular source of income. Now, when it comes to income from investments or from your business, the Mercury-Neptune is making a semi-sextile. It's getting a little wide, but it's still okay because it is there's still that aspect, the semi-sextile. It's not the best aspect, but it's still an aspect. So what I'm expecting is that you will make a little bit more than usual. You will accumulate some money, so you'll be able to take some profits, or you get more sales than usual. And so a little bit more money is flowing in. When it comes to money derived from career, you have a similar aspect with that semi-sextile, this time with Jupiter and Neptune. And this is a tighter aspect, so I do expect more money to be flowing in through your career, and that could mean that you're working more hours and that's bringing money, but it's more likely that there's some sort of bonus or that you're making more sales and therefore more commission. That you could have gotten a raise and now it's reflected in your paycheck. So you have some additional opportunities for money in general, plus money derived from career. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the investments that you would do that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, you have Mars there now. And so your interest in these types of investments, especially creative endeavors, is going to be very strong for the next couple of months. And so you also may be finding multiple different ways where you could make money through exotic investing or very kind of strange businesses or things like that. Now, this time you are doing that semi-sextile between the Neptune and the Mercury. As I said, it's wide and it's going to get wider. And so it doesn't necessarily show that you can make huge amounts of profits, but you could make a little bit of profit, which would then tell you if you're going the right direction or not. Okay, Pisces natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your own sign, in your first house of confidence, a sense of identity, your physical self, and so that's where the focus is. It also can bring a lot of relationship opportunities your way because basically all the energy is focused on you, and so you're more noticeable. And that is, if you're going to post your profile online, it's going to be seen more often. If you somebody wants to fix you up, then they remember that you're available and their friend's available, and so things can happen. But this is also a time to take care of yourself, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And so, eating healthy foods, exercising, doing those things are really even more beneficial than usual. When we look at the Saturn trine Mars, the interesting thing is Saturn is in your 12th house, and so that energy is not as accessible to you this time. It's going to take more focus and meditation for you to access that determination and that real desire to take a long time to finish something, where you know that over a period of time, one brick at a time, the building is built. So this means accessing that positive energy of being able to build something in your life is going to take very conscious effort. However, if you have a little bit of quiet, you turn off electronics or things like that, you will be able to do that. Now, the focus here is coming from something that you are doing for your family, something that you're doing for those people that you care about in your life, and then putting something out into the world for that. And so there is maybe that you are, going out and doing some charity work or connecting with people because of something going on at home. Maybe somebody in the family has a medical issue, and so you go out and support the foundation that works on that issue. Now, also though, this is about pulling yourself into seclusion to do something. And that is to shut the door and lock it, turn off the electronics, and get the important work done. And from then, it could be, working on your dissertation or working on your website or, making your video program or something like that. But it is about shutting out external distractions so that you can focus. When it comes to your relationships, as I said already, you are pulling in a lot of energy, and so it's quite quite clear that you could be meeting new people, either for friendship or a love relationship. If you're wanting to date, this is really good. Now, for getting that relationship established, you're not doing a strong aspect between Mercury and Neptune. And so what we do have is some kind of separating energy. That means that you might be connecting with people, but not getting to meet them right away. That maybe you're just talking on the phone, or maybe they say they want to meet you, but they're traveling or something like that. So just be patient about the face-to-face connection, but allow this energy to come in where you're meeting new friends and connecting with new people. When it comes to your home life, besides the Mars going through there, which gives you a lot of energy for working on projects at home, doing repairs, or having people visit, you're pulling energy from that Mercury that is rising in your chart. Planets that are rising in your chart are very visible, and so the energy is quite noticeable. So this does mean that there could be some moving energy, like you're thinking about getting a new place, or you just moved and so you're getting all settled. It can also mean that what you're doing at home is quite noticeable, even if you don't notice people noticing you. So just be aware that maybe the neighbors are paying more attention to your house for some reason. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mars in the 4th, and that does mean that if you are in anything that deals with the home, that is real estate, interior design, contracting, or anything like that, you can make a lot of money. This also means if you have some sort of business or career that you do from the home, then you can make money. And it does also say that money opportunities are there, so maybe getting a roommate to make more income, or Airbnb, or starting a business from home. All of these things are possibilities, and this aspect's going to be there for a couple of months. When it comes to income from investments or from your own business, we don't see so much accumulation. So you are making the money, but maybe not accumulating it. Maybe you're putting it right back into the business, or it's going out for necessities, because you're not doing an aspect between the Mars and the Venus this time. So it is that perhaps you are spending more money than you're making, and so it's out of balance, but it's going to rebalance, perhaps the next time or the next time after that. When it comes to your money derived from career, you are pulling money from that Saturn, which is not so great, but it is making the trine this time to the Mars. So you have the best energy you've had in a long time for bringing in a raise, a bonus, a better commission schedule. So you definitely want to talk to your supervisor. And this is, because it's in the 12th house, first do the magical side of that, or the spiritual side, and that is to hang the feng shui cures, light the candle, do the affirmations or do the prayers and things like that, then speak to the supervisor, and that's how you can get something to flow in this time. When it comes to risky investments, you are not doing an aspect between Mars and the Moon, and so this does say to be quite cautious when it comes to riskier investments, things like buying a franchise or buying a business or doing something that's very exotic or unusual. This would say that accumulating money through, like investing in commodities or doing options or things like that is going to be really tough. I would even include day trading here as part of those risky investments. So you don't show accumulation of money. So be extra cautious in this area. This energy will shift as we go forward. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned, because LaRue wants to say hi.